And we are recording. I'm trying with 3 recording methods right now. Doing Zoom, doing a QuickTime Player movie, and doing a screen recording. But that's not interesting to you who's listening. That's just a bunch of boring bullshit. So, what are we getting into? I really have no idea what we're talking about today. It's Solo Rant. It's episode 362. I just had on a badass woman named Claire Lopez, who is an ex-CIA agent and who is as intelligent as the day is long. That was badass. That will actually, by the time you see this episode, that one will already be uploaded, so I'll just shut up now. Merch is up on the store, including this badass Alex Jones sweatshirt, which is covered in the words of the rant of 2 rants he gave on episode 911 and episode whatever the second time he showed up on Rogan was, I think 1455. Yep, but that's where we're going. I'm scrambling right now, doing a solo rant. We're just going. We're going right now. We're talking. I love lamp. I love brick. Brick, do you really love lamp, or are you just naming things you see in the room? Trying to grab onto something. It's like you're falling down the side of an icy mountain, and you're just trying to grab onto something that sticks. Just, you're sliding down, just, going down. It's like Ice Age, like the little thing going for its nut. I don't really know. What are the real tactics of global domination? I didn't realize it till I was saying it out loud the other day to Mr. Michael Swanson, author of War State, which is a badass book, which is a terrifying book. But it's that the idea that money is going to take down the American empire, it seems laughable. The idea that these generals in these nuclear bunkers with these just waves of Abrams tanks and B-52s and B-1Bs and B-2s and B-21s and so on and so forth, the idea that they're going to be taken down by money, I just don't see it happening. My biggest fear is that China did interfere in the 2020 election. And I have to be very cognizant of what I'm saying. I have to be very aware of what I'm saying, because I cannot over the last couple of years be making fun of my liberal friends for thinking that Russia is behind everything. Russia. Like, that's a very dangerous precedent when you because you'll start seeing it everywhere. And it's not always everywhere. Again, in the book 1983 by was it Robert Downing? Taylor Downing? We see that he talks about how these Soviet intelligence agents truly started to see British and American spies everywhere where they didn't even exist. Actually, fuck it. Let's change gears. The Special Collection Service, the SCS, is a part of the NSA that installs listening devices in obscure places. And I'm trying to flesh out this, again, try to put it into words like I've tried and failed to do the other day about the philosophy of Hitman. Hitman. And it's that it's not always what you... Fuck, I really don't know how to put this into words. Maybe I'm just getting worse at podcasting. But to cite Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon, the best Transformers movie made, fuck you, is, I think it's Soundwave or Shockwave or one of the evil Decepticons, right? What he does, and me and my friend Matt always made fun of it, but what it does is it goes up to the back of a U.S. government satellite, and it goes right up behind it, and it has these like silicon, plastic, like fiber optic tentacles, if you will, like little veins, a lot of organic imagery. And there's like little lights pulsing up and down it. Again, it's just kind of like a human take on what a robotic organic animal would look like. But it starts seeping these its veins into this satellite, and it's like prying open like hinges and stuff, and it's going down and like zapping onto like the motherboard or the mainframe, right? Like Hacker 9000, like I'm in the mainframe. I broke past the firewall. They're good, but I'm better. God, if that's just not the... No, let's not do that right now. Is it seeps into this satellite, and but it's just that imagery, regardless of the rest of the movie. It's just that imagery, and that's always kind of how I imagine this, like, shadowy, whatever it is, intelligence. It doesn't matter what nation it is, or even if we're just talking about a power structure. But there's this thing that kind of... Another way to imagine it is I think it's what's the movie with Ben Stiller where all the kids have to lose weight, the fat camp or whatever it is. Or you could even go back to the Hulk with Ed Norton, when he and the girl who plays like the elf in Lord of the Rings, they're standing in the middle of like a college campus, and hangnails suck, and he like notices like a soldier running behind from a tree to a tree. You also see it in the movie Fat Camp, where it's like, imagine you're looking out at like a field or something with some trees in it, and imagine there's like staggered trees, maybe like every 50 yards there's like a tree, all at different things on the x-axis and y-axis. And if someone's running towards you, they get behind one tree, go to the next, and they're getting ever closer to you. And if you're viewing it from the side or from above, you can see them moving, but from your angle you don't see anything, but this thing is getting closer to you. And that's kind of like the imagery I have of intelligence agencies. It's like they're not this, whereas like an actual military, like an armed opponent, is something more like, the soldiers marching in the field like the 1700s, or just like, a column of tanks coming towards your nation's border. I have a pair of underwear I'm wearing is really fucking tight. I'm going to take them off camera, so you can still hear me, but I'm over here and I'm just putting on sweatpants instead of these underwear. It might not be that the underwear is tight so much as I just need to fucking lose some weight. Oh, that feels better. Oh yeah, but that feels so much better. Yeah. Man, is this it? Is this adulthood? Is this the culmination of it? We're on a rainy Friday morning on February 19th. Friday, February 19th, 2021 at 11:55 a.m. Eastern Time. Is this it? Is this the culmination of life? Oh yeah, take off those underwear. Those are a bit tight. Oh, that's much better now. Oh yeah. But yeah, this idea I have of like intelligence agencies, it seems like it's that back of the satellite where like no one knows you're there, but you're there. I don't think I'm putting it into very good imagery. Again, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. And I've been trying to explain this for several minutes now, and I think I'm failing spectacularly. But as with all solo rants, I don't have a topic. I just start talking, and I hope I grab onto something. Like I'm falling down a tree, and I'm trying to grab onto a branch, but I'm not sure that the whole spy agency thing is what I want to go on. And right now I'm kind of fumbling. I'm like juggling. It's live. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I talking about? And the more I think about it, the more I keep fucking it up. But I don't know. I guess we'll just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I got a 15-inch MacBook Pro from September 2019. It's pretty dope. I like it. I'm going to wait. What the fuck's that noise? Oh, it's the vacuum cleaner. that makes the same noise as my laptop does when it heats up. The M1 Max came out this past, I think, winter, and they're pretty dope, but I'm going to wait for a 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1X chip. I'm so excited for that. That's going to be like my first big boy purchase. You know, when you get out of college and you get a job and you see the Instagram post of, I bought a car, it's my first big girl purchase. I'm 30 and I'm going to be making my first one because I lived at home for 5 years like a stunted retard. But here we are. I mean, I don't know, this podcast, this equipment, maybe first big boy purchase, but I'm going to get a maxed out laptop. I'm very excited about it. And I don't know what I'm excited more about. The actual laptop and what it's going to be able to do, or just the fact that I'm capable of making a big boy purchase. And I don't have to justify it to anybody. I can just buy it. It might be that. It's a very liberating feeling. That I'll just be able to get this thing and not have to justify it to anyone. It's a very odd feeling. But I like it. I don't think I'm going to get the Xbox Series X because I was talking to a guy last night and he said that the Series X really didn't blow him away. And to me, that's just unacceptable. A new console is supposed to be a religious experience. There's something... A new game is one thing. If it's a new game in a series of games that you've been playing for a long time, Grand Theft Auto, looking at you, those are supposed to be like blown away experiences too, right? Very disappointed with Hitman 3 in that it's a great game. It's a fantastic game. But I really don't see a step above Hitman 2. I mean, it really seems like they did all the same video. It'd be like if I recorded 100 episodes today. I somehow managed to record 100 1-hour episodes. Fuck off, just go with it. And then I released one a day for 100 days. You know, on day 90, you'd be like, man, it doesn't really seem like this podcast is making like progress in terms of quality, video, audio editing. It just kind of seems like it's the same thing. That's kind of how Hitman feels. Hitman feels like it was just a continuation of like an already good product, but it doesn't feel new. It feels like they made this and then they just, like when Rick and Morty did half a season and then they were like, and the next half is coming, and it's like, just release it, you dumb cunts. Fuck. But yeah, a new console is supposed to be but back to the game. Let's see if I can not swear for the rest of the episode. Back to the GTA, or the game, sorry, Grand Theft Auto. I spoke about that the other day, where Grand Theft Auto 5, it really didn't blow me away. But it kind of did. I remember the first time I played it on an Xbox One was fall 2013. My brother had it on an Xbox 360, and I've spoke about that before, but I remember me and my roommate Ben, we bought the game and we played it when we lived in the, what is it called? The Eclipse. It was a place in Athens, Georgia. We did our last semester of college there. And there was something about that, you know how like smell, you know how smell can bring you back to a place unlike any other scent? On any other sense? There's something about that game where I turn off the music when I play games. I just don't like any cinematic music. I don't like anything. No background, no nothing. I don't want to hear a theme song. I don't want to hear anything. I want to hear the game. Like, give me, it's like when a girl like puts filters on her photos and you're like, dude, like, you're beautiful. Like, just let me see you. Like, and that's not just like a cute thing you say. Like, truly. Like, women, like, don't put a filter on. Like, you're beautiful as you are. Good Lord. Delicious. But I do remember not turning off the music for whatever reason on Grand Theft Auto 5. And maybe it was because I felt like I was getting into med school. I had aced the MCAT. Maybe it's because it was the last semester of college. We lived in the top floor of this brand new building. It was way out of our price range, but because it was brand new, we got it at like a super discounted price, so we were able to live basically in this like penthouse. Granted, it's Athens, Georgia, and it's a fifth floor penthouse. It wasn't some Manhattan shit. But there's something ethereal about it. And I haven't been able to put my finger on it for years. But it was very odd, because that's the only time in my life, right? We always look back at things. We always look back and, rose tinted glasses. They're all, it's beautiful. You look back at high school and you remember you're like, man, those. But the reality is like, you knew at the time it wasn't that great. Like, I vividly remember sitting with my friend David, not the David I always talk about, a different David CH, and we were in free period in our second semester, perhaps our first semester, senior year. And I remember that we were sitting there, and I remember talking and us saying, this sucks. Like, we're 18, but this sucks. These minutes drag by. And I remember David said, and one day we're going to look back at this and we're only going to remember the good things, but we're not going to remember right now how much this just isn't fun. And I remember that conversation. I remember us saying, this isn't fun, but we're not going to remember this. We're only going to remember the fun times. Joke's on us. All I really remember from that entire semester is that conversation. That's weird. An hour a day for like 100 days, 150 days. And I only have like 2 seconds of memory. Like, where is that? It just vanished. But I know we look back and we only remember like the good things, like the great things. But, and this is a shower thought I had the other week, and I wrote it down. So it's kind of aside. I just want to put it out there real quick, just for, I guess, historical record keeping. Is we look back at memories, right, and we see them as great, right? But we say, but it wasn't actually great. I'm just remembering the good parts, which is, hey, that's a beautiful aspect of evolution, right? I was talking to my mom yesterday, referring to my grandmother and referring to putting down my dog, is I miss them, but the things I miss are not the things that were there at the end. I miss my dog from 3 years ago. I miss that memory of the dog. The dog at the end was not the same dog. It was tired. His mind was going. He was clearly having anxiety. I would imagine some sort of dementia. Probably terrifying subjectively. I had to sedate him a lot. He could barely stand. Truly, his muscles weren't strong enough to keep him upright. Always thirsty. His kidneys weren't working effectively, so he had to drink far more water than you normally would have to. And because of that, he was always urinating, and he'd like urinate on himself, and it was sad. And eventually, I put him down, and that still kills me. God, I miss Oscar. But that's not the dog I miss is not the dog I put down. The grandmother I miss, the grandfather I miss is the deep voiced grandfather playing backgammon with my grandmother. It's not, it's not the bedridden, cancer addled body, right? Lost a lot of weight from chemo. The grandmother I miss is the grandmother who I'd play the card game casino with me and my little brother, who would slam the table when you stole her cards, and she'd scream. That's the grandmother I miss. Actually, to be fair, I loved Mimi at the end as well. Her mind was going. She, still all there, just couldn't remember everything, but still sharp as a tack. Just couldn't remember everything. But God, she was still just sweet as candy up until the end. Mimi was a saint. But for the sake of the argument, let's say no, that's not the grandmother you want to remember. You don't want to remember the weak grandmother who needed help to walk 5 steps, whose memory was gone. I remember just like the Mimi that could come out and she could shoot a basketball. She was terrible. She never played basketball in her life, but like physically was capable of going outside and throwing the ball. But I've been thinking more that what if that's not the case? So think about it. High school. I look back and I remember the good stories, the funny times. But I know that that's not what it really was. It was a lot of anxiety, social awkwardness, confusion, just, horniness beyond explanation. And I know it really wasn't good, but I look back on it and I remember the good parts. Again, hey, what a great thing about evolution, right? Or what a great thing about how the mind consolidates memories. Remember the good things, disregard the bad. But what if that's not the case? What if it's not that when it's happening, it's bad, and you look back and you only remember the good? Well, like, things settle, right? When you build a new skyscraper or a house, it still settles over a couple years. It's very slowly, maybe like half an inch a year, but it settles down into the foundation. I mean, it quite literally settles, right? You hear the creaking, like the pops and stuff in the middle of the night, and it's the house settling, right? You take a pie out of the oven, right? And it coalesces. You get the skin on top of a chocolate cream pie or something, right? It coalesces. Snow, right? You get the big fluffy snow, but then you get a couple days of sun, and it melts a little bit, but it really, what happens is it sort of takes a more distinct form, right? The snow on branches probably blows off, the snow on top of cars is removed, but the rest of it kind of, it's like shrink wrapping something, and then you heat it up, and it kind of takes on its final form. Baby's bones growing, right? They grow and then they harden, right? The epiphyseal plates, the epiphyseal, whatever the fuck, the cartilage between the bones, it settles, right? There's a great YouTube channel called I think it's Stacked, STACK capital D. It's like Stacked Casting or something, and it's this dude that just melts metal. I think he lives in Australia. I think he's retired, but it's just this dude that melts. He'll just go grab random shit, like go find an old car, like an old engine, and he'll strip out all the copper and melt it down into copper like ingots or coins and shit, and then he stamps it with this like YouTube logo. It's actually incredibly hypnotic. You go find some of his video, and it's cool shit too. Like, you'll take a ladder and just melt it down. It's really, and I love it because he keeps all the filings, all the dust, all the little shavings. Like, he keeps all of it. It's really, really, I mean, he's an artisan. But he casts these things, and then you see them take form. They settle, right? Wine, let it age. It becomes the thing it's supposed to become. Well, if in all these things we see that the original, fresh out of the oven, fresh out of the womb, fresh out of the vineyard, we see that those aren't the products that are good. We say that those are the products, but now you got to add the variable of time, right? The z-axis. Right, no, well, it's x, y, that's two-dimensional, z is three-dimensional. What would be the fourth? How do you notify? Do you go to A? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. So would it be the w-axis? Is that time? But you have to have the time variable, right? Warren Buffett talking about stocks. Some things, despite tremendous efforts and energy, just take time. You can't get a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. It just takes 9 months. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Tommy. It doesn't matter if you're Warren fucking Buffett. No amount of money. Now, I'm sure that there are probably some labs somewhere that can grow a baby in a couple days, but some things just take time to settle, to coalesce. A relationship can be puppy love, right? Just mad infatuation and sexual attraction. But it's the relationship after years that really solidifies, right? It's that comfortable reliance and familiarity, right? It's the friend that you haven't talked to in a couple of years, but that you've known for 20 years, and you know you can call right now and just talk to. And it's just that very comfortable. It's like learning a new language, and you may be proficient in it, but if at any point you really need to get your point across, you jump back to your native language because you don't think about it. So I'm saying all these things to say that some things just take settling. And is that so back to the shower thought, we are still on topic. You may not think we are, but surprise, surprise, fuckface, we are. Damn it, I was going to try not to swear. Some memories take settling. Or sorry, memories. So that's the foundations of this foundacious. That's the foundation of this whole shower thought is, what if it's not that I remember the good things, but I know I'm only remembering the good things. The reality is that the actual thing sucked. What if that's not the case? So let's break that down into what is it actually saying? Right now, in the present moment, in 2020, in 2021, I'm remembering something from spring 2009. It's been 12 years. I remember that event A as something good. But I know for a fact that when event A was happening in real time, event A actually sucked. I look at it from now, event A is good, but I know that event A actually sucked. And so what are we actually saying? We're saying that as it happened, it sucked, and that's reality. What I'm looking at from now is fake, right? It's like a push-up bra, right? You're looking at it and you're going, I know it looks great, but I know the reality isn't great. That's an example, right? The reality is I know it's not great, but the illusion, the push-up bra, is making it look great. However, I will challenge that and say, no, the reality is it's great regardless. All boobs are great. The push-up bra is the illusion. I don't know if that analogy actually works. Maybe it kind of does. What am I trying to say? Maybe it's a difference in optimism versus pessimism. I know event A sucked, but I'm looking back at it positively. So I remember it positively, but that's a flawed memory because the reality is it sucks. Real thing is it sucks. Fake thing is that it's good. That's what I've been trying to say for the last 20 minutes. We accept as the original real thing sucked, but I remember it as good, which is fake. Reality, it was shitty. Reality, it was good. Illusion, I'm really butchering this. Reality is that it was bad. The illusion is that it was good. So that says that reality is bad and our illusion is what's good, right? Why can't it be the inverse? That right there is the sentence I've been trying to get across for 30 fucking minutes. Why do we have to take our illusion of our memory? This beautiful thing where you remember the sunniest days of summer, you remember the snowstorms, you remember the good times. And we have this thing and we go, yeah, but you know that's fake. Why do we have to pull that down? Why do we have to ruin that? You know, it's like when you go out drinking, and I always have this problem where I'm like, I used to have this problem where I'd go out drinking and I'd be like, yeah, but these are just chemicals in our brain and we're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to suck. And it's like, dude, why can't we just enjoy it now? You're 22, you're in downtown Athens. It's a Friday night in September. Just, why can't you just live this now? You go outside, it's warm, you look up, you see the stars, the streets are crowded, and it's just, why can't life be beautiful? Why does it have to be, but, this is just drugs in our brains? Fuck off. Like, it's just so negative. So when I look back at memories, I try to switch my mindset now into, how come the memory can't settle? Why can't it age like a fine wine? When a fine wine ages, you don't drink it and go, this tastes good. But the reality is it's just grapes. It's just grapes. No, people pay thousands of dollars for a very good bottle of wine because you drink it and it's fantastic. Every sip is just beautiful. You're not craving for the next sip. You're just enjoying the present sip. It's very philosophical. No one goes, yeah, but the reality is it's just, you don't play Ace Combat 7 on a 4K TV and go, this is great, but one day we're going to look back at this and it's going to suck. You don't pull out your brand new iPhone and go, this is fantastic, man, in 20 years we're going to be making fun of it. No, you enjoy the high refresh rate. You're 60, 90, 120 FPS. High resolution, 1440p screen, bright, high battery. Just, it's, the new app updates and you change it around and the haptics are great. Sure, it's a fun thought to maybe say in passing, or maybe when you're like high, you're going to be like, man, one day this is going to be just like old school walkie-talkie. Sure, but you don't destroy it for what it is. Like when I first plugged in this camera, and I think it's in like the 300s, it's like episode 30 something. I never even tested it. I just plugged it in and started recording. And you can see the first instances, I look at it and I think my first words are, holy shit, wow, because it's crystal clear, right? And now I look back at it and this, now I look at it and it still seems pretty clear to me, but it's not mind-blowing. When I look back at old episodes, pre-300, I'm like, man, that webcam was shit. But I never thought that at the time. I was like, this is great. I got a podcast going. I remember I thought it was big dick swinging when I finally... at first it was just the background was just a Bowflex. And then after that, the next episode, I eventually draped a flag over the Bowflex. And I was like, here we go. And then I turned the desk around for episode 50 when I had on Comstock for the first time, and I hung the flag behind me, and I was like, now we're really rolling. And then I got a leather chair instead of an old World War I rocking chair. Now I was like, oh, now we're really going, right? And then I stopped compressing it to 540p because originally I was like, I'm just going to save all the podcasts on my laptop. And it was like, oh, my sweet summer child. Now the podcast, even compressed from 4K to 1080, it's at like 3.6 terabytes now. Like, no bullshit. It's 3,600 gigs. This is a 256 gig laptop. And so I stopped compressing to 540 and I took the step and I started putting it in externals, like a big boy. And I was like, now we're really going. We got an external hard drive, right? Then I discovered that if I put it through iMovie and I clicked the little wand, it would not. I always thought the wand, it was like in your photo library in your iPhone. Or if you're like a subhuman and use an Android, I'm not sure if they have those. But an iPhone, if you click the image, and you can edit it. What you can do is you can click the little wand, obviously, and it kind of it balances the exposure, the highlights, the contrast, the shadow, the vibrance, the saturation, the black point, the white point, the tint, the hue, the definition. The clarity, the sharpness, the vignette, the noise reduction, the brilliance. I think that's it. But it levels them all out so the image looks better. If it's overexposed, it'll make it darker. If it's dark, it'll make it lighter, blah, 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 blah. And it makes it kind of pop, right? It makes the color a little better. I didn't know that you could do that with iMovie where you click it and I thought it just did it to the video, which I don't care about. Like, I mean, dude, I'm whiter than snow. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not uploading this as like an Instagram, like Kim Kardashian, where they put on the filter that makes it look like your skin is made of plastic. Like, I don't want that. Like, this is who I am. Deal with it, right? But I didn't realize clicking it made the audio sound a lot better. So I was like, oh, okay. So now I do this. So sometimes it really fucks up the saturation and it makes it look like I'm trying to edit it. I don't give a fuck about the image. What I care about is the audio. So that was the next step, right? Putting in the audio, making the audio better. I was like, okay, now we're really rocking and rolling. All right. Then what came after that? After that was the original Shure microphone I had, the little silver metal one. Then it was like, okay, now we're rolling. And I would balance it on the laptop, like 2 feet from my mouth. I don't think it ever did anything. And I was like, oh, we got to turn it up all the way, turn up the gain all the way, because right, more is better. And I would put it through iMovie, and then I would jack up the volume to 500%, not realizing that it kind of made that like deep fried meme noise. The next evolution after that was getting more hard drives, and actually I was like, I need it to be redundant, because I realized one time I accidentally lost part of an episode. I deleted it. No, it was with Rob and JP, and it somehow ended up deleting like the first half of that's what it was. It was out on Rob and JP. You can go back and find it. I think it's in the sub 100. It's in before episode 100. It's Rob, JP, and I. But you'll notice Rob isn't in there, because at some point I fucked up the recording and had to restart. And then the only part that saved was Rob and I, or JP and I, talking for like 20 minutes. We were talking about testicles and stuff. I think it was right before Easter. And I was like, okay, well now I need 2 forms of recording, because what happens if I fuck it up and I don't? What happens if I lose it? And so that's when I started recording with Zoom as well as screen recording. So I get 2 different files. The Zoom, it's much lower fidelity audio, lower video quality, but it's a second form. When I had on Mike Rant, episode 95, I Zoom recorded, I screen recorded, and I propped up my phone and my iPad on either side. You can't see it in the podcast, but I had them up, and I had those recording, because I was like, I do not want to lose this interview with Michael J. Durant, who I'm never going to get again. I hope I do, but I was just like, let's prepare for the worst. Then the next step after that was what was it after that? I would say the next big step after that, it was putting up the new camera. And the new camera was like, wow, like, this is clear. But it also made me realize just how like kind of shoddy it looked. I just had the flag, and then you could just see like the wall with some like cords. So then it was put the black sheets on either side, and then it was put the lights above, get some good illumination, and then it was the microphone, and it was like, okay, it's all coming together. The point of this whole thing is saying, though, is that at no point did I look at the greatness of perceived greatness, asterisk, as I looked at it and said like, oh, it looks better. And I never once said to myself, nah, this is shit. One day you're going to look back and this is just going to be shit. No, I truly appreciated it for what it was at the time. Always keeping in mind that I want to improve. There always needs to be room for improvement. If there's no room for improvement, well, then you're failing, because there's always room for improvement. If you're not improving, that's your own flawed perception that you've perfected something. Except for sharks. Sharks and ICBMs are 2 things that are the culmination of perfection. They have reached the termination of their evolution. Maybe not ICBMs, but sharks definitely. And right now, this is episode 362. Like, I'm still tickled. Like, when I see, how bright the image is now. And granted, I could make the image brighter in the old ones, but it hurt my eyes. I had to put lamps right behind the camera. It would give me migraines. Now I have these diffuse lights that are above me, and I can't even see in my periphery. Now, if I go focus on it, I can, but I can't even see it up here. And the lighting is much better. the microphone, fucking with the gain and stuff, and I put, the tripod, and it's right in front of my mouth. I'm sure one day in the future I'll figure out a way that it's not covering my face. Another thing is sound. I moved as I put up in the video yesterday where I showed the studio, quote unquote, is I was worried about sound reflection, and I never once worried for 300 episodes that I had a flat screen TV. I mean, I can touch it. My finger's on it right now. That's what she said. You just can't see it. It's off screen. That's what she said as well. She says a lot of things. She's a hoe. It's just, between you and me. A little more restaurant. But not realizing that was a flat reflective surface for sound. And then I put these, thanks Roger, shout out Roger, actually shout out Roger's wife, I think, saying, hey, you don't need to buy those expensive sound absorbing panels that you hang up on the wall. You can just get moving blankets. They're thick. So I doubled them up on top of that flat screen. I put 2 tripods back there, tripods from Mitzi, shout out Mitzi. I moved a bureau right there and a filing cabinet right there, and I doubled everything up with moving blankets. It greatly reduces the acoustic reflection. It's not perfect, but it greatly reduces it. I really didn't notice it till now when I turn on that fan. When I take off the black mat and I pull it up over the TV to play some video games, when I take it off, you can even just hear the fan reflecting off of it. A loud fan that I'm not going to turn on right now, but a loud fan. So it's not even like this faint thing. It already blocks out all other sound. It's just even with that on, and something as faint as the reflection of the noise of a fan. You pull up the mat, and then you can just hear this like shh, and it's reflecting. It's reflecting off that right there, and then you pull the mat back down, and it gets quiet. So there are all these tiny little things I found that just keep moving it along, and with every iteration, with every gain of function of the podcast, I don't look at it and say, yeah, this sucks. I'm going to look back at it and it's going to suck, because you can't do that. There's always room for improvement. I never want to stop improving, right? I mean, up until the day I die, it's, I'm sure Rush Limbaugh, rest in peace, Larry King, rest in peace. I'm sure that throughout their iterations, right, even they at the apex of their careers, I mean, I'm sure even Rogan, right, they're going to keep moving, and it's like, oh man, we're going to try to bump up to 8K HDR or something. I think there's value in continually improving. I think it's good for the mind. That being said, don't belittle your advancements now. Be happy with where they be happy, but be hungry. It's a fine line you have to walk between. Don't grow content. Grow content and that be grateful for what you have. I try to do that when I'm meditating. I try to be like, hey, think about you ever like fuck up your shoulder at the gym, or your leg or something, lower back. You're like, it's just you find yourself kind of having to shift to me, the best case of this is sunburns. I can't even talk about it. I can't look at people with sunburns. I hate it. I can't watch it. I hate them. That's hell on earth. I can't even change my mind to blah, 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 blah. I fucking hate. Focus. Think about something where you have that's very painful. And then when you have it, you think, man, I never, you never notice it until it's there. Like, have you ever had just like blinding back pain? I've only had it like twice in my life, where like you can't even stand. I mean, and there's no position that you can settle in that, doesn't hurt. It's like like leaving like when I got my tonsils out, it was like if I stayed completely still on Vicodin with like ice packs, it didn't hurt. It hurt when I swallowed. That's what she said. That she should not be saying that. It should be a loving act. But and vice versa, it shouldn't. And he shouldn't hurt to eat. It should be a loving act. There is. That's not a good example. The pain that you can kind of like let go away briefly. You have to think about the pain that's just there constantly, like a headache or a nausea or a sore back, to where it doesn't matter what position you're in, it just still hurts. When you have those things, I don't know about you, but I know that I think, man, I never am like grateful for when this isn't here. It's not until you have a splitting lower back pain or a sunburn where you can't even take a hot shower, lower back pains where you can't get out of bed, a headache to where just like anything but having a blanket over your eyes is painful, and then you have to get up and go do something, go to the restroom, take a hot shower, check your phone, sunburn, back pain, headache, respectively. You become acutely aware of how easy life is without these pains, and how I just wish I did. When I used to have strep throat, I just think I'd be like, God, I just can't wait to not have this pain. We're getting braces and it hurts to eat crackers, right? And I don't mean like some like Caucasian cannibalism. I mean actually eating crackers, like Ritz crackers. That was good, fuck you. It's a thing. That is what I mean by grateful. Is sometimes you have to be grateful for what's not, when I sit down and meditate, and it's at first my mind will always be jumping around to, what are we doing next? How are we going to make this better? I got to get a bigger guest. I got to get more subscribers. Come on, man. You got to do better than that. You're not doing well. You got to be pushing harder, faster, better, stronger. You need to be reading more audiobooks, listening to more documentaries. You need to be getting bigger guests. You need to be posting on more social media platforms. How come you're not making more money on revenue? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you getting that? How come you... And those are good things to have that keep you hungry. There's nothing like a little bit of a healthy jealousy in a relationship. And I need to specify, when someone more attractive than you is hitting on your significant other. Your significant other, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're entertaining it and making you jealous, but there's nothing wrong with a little healthy jealousy to make you go, okay, maybe I don't need that extra burger. Maybe I should go to the gym tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with a little, little kick in the pants. But oftentimes when I meditate, and I've been trying to get better about this. My whole life I've been trying to implement it more during meditation, is be grateful for right now. And I don't just mean in that sort of like cheesy sense that like, yes, we should be grateful, but I mean, come on, when you say like, hey, be grateful for drinking water, like it feels good. You feel like noble and virtuous to say it, but you don't give a fuck. You can't imagine anything other. I have to pee so bad. We're at 48 minutes and 20 seconds. It's a full minute break for the bathroom. So another evidence of improving the podcast is I now am editing out bathroom breaks. I didn't realize just how long they were. In my mind, they really were. I was gone for 20 seconds. I didn't realize I go for a minute and a half. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go in 6 months to edit out bathroom breaks instead of doing whatever. This sucks. No. Be grateful for the little improvement that is today. Okay, I'm going to start editing out bathroom. Actually, I started yesterday. I think that was the first day. Was it yesterday? Did I do a solo rant yesterday? I think I did. Man, I'm losing my mind. But be grateful for the little moves that happen, right? Don't belittle them. Yeah, so like meditating, I try to, because again, when you just kind of say these empty things to yourself, which I mean, they're not empty. They should be grateful for shelter and food and water. But the reality is like, I've never been in water. That's just a fact. I can't even pretend to be humble in that sense. I just haven't. So instead, I try to go back to pains I have experienced, and we've all experienced our own pains, and I don't think any of us have experienced greater than others. I think there's subjective pain. Whether you're a trust fund baby that never has to work in a life, but your pain is that you don't have a close relationship with your father, or whether it is you're growing up in a war-torn village in Africa, and you watched your mom be murdered, right? Yes, one of them is objectively worse. It's good to keep that in mind. However, there's nothing wrong. Don't belittle your own pain. And that's what I've been trying to do more, is understand that all of our pains. But the point is like I'll talk to people sometimes, and they'll be like, "Man, Tommy, I'm complaining about this, but I don't know what it'd be like to lose a sibling." And for many years, I in my mind, if not vocally, I would be like, "No, you don't know what it's like to lose a sibling. Fuck you." But I realize now that, like, dude, that was my battle. That was the cross I had to carry. I only know what it's like to lose a sibling that's 2 spaces older than you. My older brother only knows what it's like to lose a sibling 1 space older than him. My younger brother only knows what it's like to lose the oldest, or the 3 spaces above him. My parents know what it's like to lose a child, and I'll never know that. They'll never know what it's like to lose a sibling to suicide when you're 23. It's like we all have our own things, and I don't know what that's like. So I try to be grateful for when meditating, to where I'll go back to real pains and really try to kind of focus on them, and not bring them back from the dead and open those wounds, so much as try to remember what they were and how they're not here right now. And how there were times in my life where I would just dream, just daydream about the day when this is all a distant memory. And I look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, like, remember that hell? Remember getting a call that your brother's dead? Remember coming back home and how you could almost feel the death in the air? There was just like an otherworldly coldness in the house, even if you had a heater on. At least to me, that's one thing I'll never forget, was just how it felt cold. And this is coming from someone that loves the cold. It's 57 degrees in this room right now, and I love it. Like, that's a distant memory now. It'll be 7 years and 2 months, right? And like, I've survived. Remember when you had to call your parents and have them come get you so you could move home in 2016 at age 26? And how embarrassed I was. And it's all a distant memory now. Like, thank God that's not here. Thank God I'm not going through cold turkey clonazepam withdrawals. Thank God that first day of a breakup, when you're just at the bottom of a mountain, or you're in that, I would say you're at the bottom of a well and you have to climb up just to get to baseline. And you're just like, God. And it's not until that first day, months down the road, maybe years, that you realize you went a day without of thinking of him, non-binary foxkin. And how easily we just kind of accept it as like the new thing, without truly dwelling on how grateful you should be. This morning was, so like sitting there, I'll be sitting there in bed and I'll be meditating. I'll be like, hey, you don't have a blistering sunburn right now. Move around. Move your skin around. Doesn't feel like hell. Like, okay. Hey, you're not having an anxiety attack to the point where you can't even talk. You have to have someone come put Xanax in your mouth and sit with you until you feel like your world isn't collapsing into an existential black hole. You don't have a blinding headache where everything hurts and you just want to be unconscious. You're just here. You're not on the side of the road with a flat and you have to call AAA. you didn't just realize that you have to you retake a course next semester. It's not there right now. And appreciate so to me, the best example is working at a liquor store. And just what am I doing? I'm putting liquor on shelves. I just, like a true arrogant, spoiled, self-inflated douchebag. I think I'm so much better than this. It's like, hey, dude, do you need to take that slice of humble pie? No, you're here. You're working right now. And I used to just think, man, I'd come home and I'd still be in my liquor store shirt, and I'd be like, have to pep myself up and be like, all right, we got a podcast right now. Or I have to finish up a podcast. Be like, all right, man, let's wrap this one up because I got to go to work. And there'd just be these brief moments where I'd be like, I cannot wait for the day where all I do is podcasting. And I would think of it as like this world I couldn't even imagine. Like, how great would that be? Because even when you get 2 days off from work, you can have that brief experience of what it would be like. You wake up when you want to wake up, you go to the gym, come back, get meditation, prep for a podcast, and woo, let's go. But even that, that's not a true experience of it. Yes, on paper it is. You wake up, podcast, then you play video games and listen to an audiobook of the next guest you're having. Gucci, right? But there's a bigger component that you can experience. Because if you have 2 days off, what's something that you're thinking about? I gotta go to work on Monday, fuck. And for 2 days you get to experience what it's like to just do podcasts. And this is, for me, this is the nirvana, I would imagine. But even that wasn't a true example of it, because whenever the day would come that I truly did just have to do podcasts, that life would be void of the, I have to go to work on Monday. And it was unimaginable. And then starting on October 25th, I think that was my last day of work, or it was like my first day of officially just doing podcasting when I got to quit. And it's still very hard for me to like wrap my head around. Like, it's not that I have to go to work in 2 days and right now I just get to do a solo rant podcast. Like, I don't have to go to work in 2 days. I don't have to go to work in 4 days. I don't have to go to work next week. Like, that's fucking insane. And this is what I mean by being grateful. Like, remember that. I'm talking to myself now. I always am. But remember that, Tommy. You don't have to go to work, deal with an asshole customer, have to hold it in, like when you hold in a date on, or a fart on your first date. It's like you can't go have diarrhea in the employee bathroom because it's connected to the main floor and everyone's going to hear you, and you open the door and it's going to reek. So you just kind of have to put out like a half shit, and you're just like, God, I can't wait to go home and shit. Like, I don't have to do that. Days where I have a headache and I didn't sleep well enough and I'm just a manager's being just not chill, and the sun's coming through the window in the morning, or maybe it's 5 p.m. and it's just really piercing through, and you just fuck, and you're trying to, hey, you can go do this, and you're just like when I'm out changing the marquee, hey, come by for your Malibu coconut, and you're using a long like mop pole with a magnet on the end, and it's raining, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? I'm on the side of a highway in Maryland at 10 a.m. soaking wet. Industrial trucks are driving by delivering whatever to fucking Walmart or some grain silo, and I'm changing the magnetic words so you can come in and get your high noon seltzer. And it's like, what am I doing with my life? I'm the guy right now that people drive by and you go, at least I'm not him. And it's so right now, like, what do I have to do? I'm going to do this podcast. And then I got to prep for tomorrow. I got a cool one coming up, but I'm actually not releasing it tomorrow. You'll know when it releases. It's going to be sexy. They'll be released in the next like 2 weeks probably. Now I'm blowing it up. That's going to be the biggest thing ever. It's not. It's a time. It's fuck you. It's special to those that it'll be special to, and the rest of you go away. But even right now, so like that's the realization I had this morning, where I woke up and I didn't have time to go to the gym. And I know the whole, you shouldn't say don't have time. Change it from I don't have time to it's not a priority. So therefore, when you say I don't have time to go to the gym, I can say the gym's not a priority. And when you say that out loud, you realize that's not true. And you really just got to put in the hours to go get those abs. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Or to me, the non-negotiable thing is sleep, because without sleep, the rest of the day sucks. To me, non-negotiable is sleep. The second non-negotiable is meditation. Those are the two non-negotiables before a podcast. The first of which is sleep. The second of which is meditation. The third of which, though very important, is still number 3, and that's exercising. I'd rather be well rested. And the next thing is I'd rather just get my mind straight. After that, I'd rather exercise. But I didn't have time this morning because I had to. There's no such thing as solutions, only trade-offs, or no such thing as solutions, only compromises. Or only solutions. Life is a series of compromises. I woke up and did a shower and meditated. And while I was in the shower, I wish I'd gone to the gym first. I mean, I can't believe I'm not going to the gym. Blah, 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 blah. And I had this moment where it just kind of dawned on me. I was listening to Mac Miller and showering. And I kind of started to like dance a little bit because at first my mind was just running. I was like, I just woke up. I gotta take a shower, and after this I gotta meditate, and I got a podcast coming up. Oh, and then I have to prep for a podcast tomorrow. I can't even play video games all day. I have a guest tomorrow. Who am I having? It's a UFO episode, and it just shone into my mind's eye for like a moment. I didn't even realize that I hadn't been being grateful for it. Right? It creeps up on you. When I first had to stop working at the liquor store, or when I first got to stop working at the liquor store, every day was like, I do podcasts, this is awesome. And it still is that. And sometimes I get lulled into not being grateful. And I'm like, I'll find myself bitching to my friend. I'll be like, dude, I have 3 podcasts tomorrow. And she'll be like, dude, you set your schedule and you can cancel. And there's no manager where they can say, well, can I speak to your manager because you canceled? No, I am the manager, bitch. She was like, dude, you... And I'm like, oh, yeah. It's just me. And I realized that's just recreational. Maybe I like to bitch and vent because that's how we feel human. Even when nothing's wrong, we still... I can remember one time sitting around some, like, aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, all up at the lake house, and these were all like super conservative people like myself. But I remember they were just like, man, I was at Walmart and I was looking for the right oil and I couldn't find it. There's all these different brands of oil, and it's like, how many brands do you need, guys? I mean, come on. But these are the same people. If there weren't that many brands, they'd be like, these dirty fucking socialists. And it's just like, maybe we just want something to bitch about, man. And so I realized that, I got long nose hair. Maybe we just want something to bitch about. And so I find myself bitching about the podcast sometimes, but I think that's more of a recreational bitching, where it's kind of fun, right? It's like what Rogan says about recreational outrage. It's like a lot of us, whether we know it or not, or acknowledge it or not, or can even begin to entertain it or not, is that a lot of us just watch the news because it's a recreational outrage, because there's no real outrage in our life. So when you go, they gave how much money to the endowment of the arts, and blah, 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 and it's like, do you just want something to bitch about? And what a blessing it is that we can have recreational bitching, because there is no real bitching. What a blessing it is that we can go to war online with people who want to identify as a dragonfoot, because we don't have a real war of, Japanese dive bombers taking out aircraft carriers, right? But the point is I was in the shower listening to Mac Miller, and there was this brief moment where it was like, fuck, I got to do this podcast, and then tomorrow I got to have on this woman, and we're talking about UFOs, and I need to go over her book tonight. And then I was like, stop. What am I showering for? A shower and meditation for? Oh, well, I have a woman who's coming on, Claire Lopez, and we're going to talk about her time in the CIA. That alone. Just that. Regardless if it's a podcast. You're going to go talk to a woman that was in the CIA for 20 years? That's badass. Number 2, it's also going to be a podcast. 3, you're making money off this podcast. 4, and then after I have to prep for my UFO guest tomorrow? That's my homework? It's not OChem? Well, I loved OChem. It's not calculus? Your evening is, I got to wrap this podcast up so I go to the liquor store because, I really got to just stack that Jack Daniels Black, whatever the fuck it is. No. It's like, dude, you really gotta crunch because you gotta learn all about UFOs tonight. And that's what I'm doing for a living. I'm getting money from this. Finalizing a contract. I'm moving out of my parents' house. Like, dude. Embrace it and love it for what it is. God, this is a dream. This is a dream. I remember I used to think, man, once the podcast starts making money, the first thing I'm going to do is put it back into the podcast. I'm going to get better equipment. Yeah, you're here right now, looking at this dope webcam with dual light rings and a microphone with a stand and whatever Focusrite and Cloudlift are. But I have those things, and I have a black background and a big leather chair, and I have 100 terabytes behind the computer, and then I got 25 terabytes in my NORAD vault. Even just little things where I used to have to plug in every hard drive one at a time, and then I had to plug them all into a hub, but now I have them all just clicked up to where I just have to press that big comical green button. It's just little things, though. For the first time ever, I've spoken about this a lot for all of you OG listeners, how hard it is to get guests. Right, the 95% ghost rate. I haven't talked about that in like 100 episodes because it hasn't been a thing. For all the new listeners, the 95% ghost rate, what that is if you send out 100 emails, 95 people don't respond, 5 people do respond, 4 of which tell you no, 1 of which tells you yes, you get that one guest. You got to send out 100 emails per interesting guest. And then in between, you just have to fill it with friends and other former guests. I don't say have to. Those are fun episodes and I'm grateful for them. But when you want to get on a new author or something, you have to do that. And it started to, I got more and more authors started saying yes, and that led to a self-acceleration. But now it's going to a new point of acceleration to where I don't have to go out of my way to find guests. I just ask guests, I'm like, do you know anybody interesting? And they send them along. It's at this point, it's like a protoplanetary accretion disk, to where at first it's like the rocks kind of have to bundle it together, but now it's getting large enough that it has its own gravitational pull. Now, granted, gravity exists across infinite distances and between all sources of matter, but let's get to a point of nucleation or a coalescence of a protoplanetary, spheroid, oblong sphere. I'm just saying words now, it doesn't matter. Point is getting to a point where now in. And I remember early on, it was like once I had a guest, I was like, oh, now I can do guest number 2, and then I can do guest number 5, and then I can do guest number 10, and it was easier to get guests because it was like, now I at least have episodes. And then I got my first kind of like big guest, and it was like, oh, cool, Delta Force guy, Dale Comstock, episode 50, and that led to Mike Duran, episode 95, which led to, I would say, 161, Brigadier General Robert Spalding, which led to 216, Charlie Duke, Walked on the Moon. Not sure if I've topped that one since. And when I look at those, and I look at that growth, every time I was floored at that sort of new paradigm. Now I'm at a holy grail spot. I used to think, man, imagine when it gets so big that it just starts attracting people on its own. That doesn't mean that I try to pick it apart and go, yeah, but you still have to find. No, shut up. And is there now a paradigm after this? Goddamn right there is. To where maybe I don't even have to ask guests. Maybe they ask me. And to the point where, what if the podcast gets so big that that's not just a distant idea? What if that's the norm? That's just the standard operating procedure. Guests ask you and you get to curate them. What if I don't even have to do it? What if I can hire someone one day? As they bring on guests, they get me, and I just have to show up. What if even the whole recording and processing and exporting and storing and uploading and social media linking, what if that right? Because right now I got to screen record, I got to compress to 1080 to iMovie to export to upload to get the screen grab, get the link, put in the link to the apparel right here, go buy that sweatshirt, put in the link to the apparel, take that whole link, put some hashtags or SEOs on it, and then upload it to like 9 different social media platforms. What if one day I have someone that just does that for me? What if it gets to a point where I just have to show up, talk, and then leave, and it brings in money? And sure, that's where I want it to go one day, but don't belittle it for what it is now. Don't, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't let it rob you of your love for it now, your pride in it now. And I every day I try to do something more for the podcast, and I get very proud of it. It probably hasn't been since college that I've really had this level of pride in my work, where it would be a hellish semester, but then you'd see that GPA just tick up a little bit, and just one more thing added to the resume, an A in OChem, an A in biochemistry, an A in whatever. And you feel pride when you look at it. And that's what I feel, looking at my own apparel store. Okay, there's a podcast apparel store, fully functioning, exists as an LLC, I think. It's incorporated as a tax ID. Like it's completely linked up to the Shopify system. You go in, you can use Amex, MasterCard, Amazon Pay, PayPal, Apple Pay. And it's like, whoa. This thing's real. It's real. It works. Granted, it hasn't sold anything yet, but, that's coming. So, just all these little things that, if you're not careful, you can slip into a sense of, like maintenance with a drug addiction. What used to get you high, now it gets you buzzed. And what used to get you buzzed now makes you just feel normal. And what used to make you feel normal now just lowers the withdrawals from terror to slight discomfort, right? It's be grateful for what is here now, and how for so long I just dreamed of this, and it wasn't even just a waiting game. It happened. And then not only that, it wasn't just that you had to make it, right? You don't just wait until you get into med school. You got to make it happen. You got to put in the work, the thousands of hours of work. I mean, truly, literally, the thousands and thousands of hours of work, of studying, of researching, of volunteering, of applications. You got to put in that work. But even so you don't just wait to get in med school, you got to put in the work. But even that, if you put in the work and you do score better than other people, because there's not an objective score you have to get. You're scored in comparison to your peers. So it doesn't matter if you get an F on the test. If everyone else gets a 0, your F is an A, right? F and A. So with the podcast, I would argue, to me, subjectively, I can say it was harder to get this podcast going than it was to get into medical school, because medical school, there's a psychology in that. Yes, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take thousands of hours. Like I just said, it's going to take years. But if you score better than your peers, and I knew I was, then you're on track to win. It will work, right? It's like, this might not work, right? If you go out into space and you throw a rock, let's just say there's no orbits, whatever. Let's just say everything's stationary and you throw a rock at the moon. It will hit the moon eventually. You have to wait. All right? Now, what if you're on Earth and you have to, let's use a med school analogy, you have to you have to sail from New York to fucking wherever, somewhere in England, to Belfast, right? The path exists, but you still have to put in the thousands of hours of work. And you might sink, you might not. Now, the podcast is like Christopher Columbus. You know what you want to hit, and that's why you're leaving. But just because that's what you want doesn't mean that that's what exists out there for you. And whatever exists doesn't even mean that you'll attain that which exists. So there's just terror. Again, with med school, it sucked, but The goal was there. If you did hit it, you would get it, right? It's like a video game. You got to get 2 million XP to unlock the fucking whatever, whatever plane or tank or gun. But you know that you will unlock it. You got to put in the hours, you got to grind, but you know that eventually when you get to that point, you will unlock it. That doesn't exist for the podcast. That didn't, where you might grind for that 2 million XP. You might row your boat from New York to Belfast, but Belfast might not exist because you don't know where Belfast is. You don't even know that there is a Belfast. There's a port at all, or at least a body of land that you can jump ship and swim to. And that's what this podcast is. This podcast was like shooting a generation ship, but instead of shooting it at another star or galaxy, you just shot it into the Hubble Ultra Deep Field where it's just darkness and you hope it hits something. That's what this was. And the fact that that's what this was is why I should be so grateful. Like it didn't come in a traditional sense. It wasn't YouTube like, here's your money. YouTube still hasn't monetized me, those motherfuckers. They said it takes 30 days from the point where you hit 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 view hours, and then you apply to be monetized. I've done that. I did that in October. It's been about 120 days. Nothing. I wonder why. It's because I'm problematic. Is problematic not the most fascistic, semantic gymnastics? You're problematic. Jesus Christ, if that doesn't... What does problematic imply? That there's a solution. When have we last seen a final solution to a certain problematic group of people, right? But, I mean, we're seeing that, right? Value papers. Where are your vaccine papers? All right? We had to use fascism to get rid of the fascist dictator. Trump isn't a dictator if you can vote him out. Sorry. Well, let's not dive into that right now. So be grateful, but at the same time, being grateful for everything, have to also stay hungry. Right? So there's a duality. Be grateful for the fact that it's here, that the podcast is working. Don't forget that. Don't, it's not enough. I want a bigger TV. I want a new MacBook. I want bigger guests. I want 2,000 subscribers. I want to be making money. I want my own room. I want to be me. Don't fall into that hole, because that's a subjective jail that there's no point of being in. Be very grateful for what's around you right now. You don't have to work at a liquor store. You're moving out of your parents' house. You don't have to go fucking do some 9 to 5. You're making money doing podcasting, man. Like, rejoice in that hot tub of bliss. Slip in up to your neck and just... But also, that hunger for more is good. Don't grow content. Don't let it start to bother you. I want more. No, dude, it's like you don't have to go to work. You wake up when you want. You get to have the guests on that you want. You listen to what you want. You do what you want when you want. You can do 3 episodes a day for 3 days and then take 9 days off, and it still comes off as the same. Like, that's incredible. So don't let it pull you down. However, and it's a fine line, don't be ungrateful. I want more. I want better, faster. No, be very happy for what you have. Don't let it ruin your day. Don't be ungrateful, but don't be content. And that's a very, that's like if you're at a buffet and you just ate a pancake and you're like, I want to go get more. And your mom's like, wait 5 minutes until that one settles and then you can go have more. Don't be ungrateful for the pancake in your belly. But that may not be a good analogy because that's just gluttony. I'm not even going to use an analogy. I'm just going to use the reality of what's now. Don't be ungrateful for this. Don't get your panties up in a bundle. One day you're going to miss living with your parents, as hard as that is for me to believe right now. One day you're going to miss it. Right? Just like one day you're going to miss your dog. As much as a bitch as he was sometimes, most days. Don't be ungrateful for what you have. But don't grow content. It's at 1,800 subscribers. I mean, that's good. We'll just put out no. get bigger and better guests, get cooler guests, have better conversations, boost up the audio, get a more crisp image, get better Ethernet so you can upload it faster. So for time sensitive episodes or concerning current events, you can get them up quicker. Hopefully economies of scale, sell more merch so you can start selling it for less. More streamlined guest acquisition services. That's going to be my division, guest acquisition services, right? Always push, try to get it sharper, just be the best. You get to 2,000, cool, let's get to 3,000 subscribers. I mean, fucking hold that buck knife and go cut throats of the centuries. Like go fucking hustle, go get it. But also don't be ungrateful. So it's when it starts to ruin your day, remember to be grateful for what you have. But when you start, okay, hold on, let's twist this. What is the source of the bad day? I want more. Well, isn't that bad day driving you to not be content? Man, they're interchangeable. Are you being ungrateful, or are you just, feeding the fire of hunger? Fuck. It's a tightrope. You gotta walk that. I don't know, man. Who knows? I don't know. I certainly don't know. So I don't really know what the rant was. And I don't really care. I had a much needed realization that, like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Keep pushing. Don't slow down. I want this thing to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. I want to change the face of mental health. I want to be able to make massive donations to MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies. Like, I want to, I want to discuss things. I want to bring up the past of America and the CCP and China and the Soviet Union and the KGB and the CIA and weapons programs and bioweapons programs and atrocities. Like, bring light to that, make people realize how important it is that America gets the next tallest fucking skyscraper. Like, we need that. But also be grateful. Look how badass all this shit around me is. This is like a dope little studio, but at the same time, it kind of looks like it's a cave, like a Taliban cave, and maybe you need to get your own place to get a better studio. So what was the point of this episode? Man, I don't know. But I'm grateful that I can just sit down and talk for an hour and a half. And now I have to go prep for a UFO episode tomorrow. Life is absolutely incredible. I'm not addicted to drugs. I'm not wallowing in defeat after getting dumped. I'm getting ready to move out. I've healed and grown massively since my brother's passing. The podcast is making money. I have a merch store. I have a dope microphone. God, be proud. Be happy. Be grateful. Be content. Don't be content, but be grateful. But you know where gratefulness and being content does not apply? New consoles. Jesus Christ, the Xbox Series X should blow me the fuck away. Microsoft, shame on you. Bill Gates did COVID.